The rain poured relentlessly over Edinburgh. Dr. Malcolm Fraser watched the droplets slide down the window of his new office. Now, at 42, he found himself its owner, responsible for cataloging thousands of rare volumes. It had been 3 weeks since his uncle Robert passed away, leaving him Blackfriars Books, a bookstore nearly as old as the 17th century building it lived in. As a linguist specializing in medieval codes, Malcolm had always loved visiting the shop as a child. "Dr. Fraser, I found another box in the basement." Malcolm turned to see Eyelid MacLeod, the grad student he'd hired to help him. "Looks old," she said, setting a wooden box down on the table. "And it has your name on it." Malcolm frowned. "My name?" The lock gave way easily, revealing a single book wrapped in black cloth. As he removed it, a chill ran down his spine. It was a grimoire, a book of magic bound in worn dark leather with tarnished metal clasps. The yellowed parchment pages were filled with dense writing in a mix of Latin, Old Gaelic, and symbols he didn't recognize right away. As a linguist, he couldn't resist the thrill of cracking a code. That very first night, after Eyelid left, he stayed hunched over the grimoire until the early hours of the morning. He leaned in to examine the box. Sure enough, carved into the time-darkened wood was the name Malcolm. Not exactly rare, it was a traditional Scottish name, but the coincidence struck him. "Extraordinary," he murmured, running his fingers over the pages. And more disturbingly, Malcolm started finding notes in his own handwriting, notes he didn't remember writing. "Looks like it's from the 1500s, maybe during the reign of James VI." He brought the book to the professor's office at the University of Edinburgh. Blackwood turned pale at the sight of it. "During the great Scottish witch hunts," Eyelid added. Her eyes locked with his, as if trying to send a message across the centuries. He jolted awake. Looking down at the grimoire, he noticed something odd. A section that had been completely unreadable now appeared perfectly legible in Old Gaelic. Malcolm nodded, eyes locked on the symbols. "Legend says she crafted a grimoire using her own blood, written in a way that only someone with a gift for languages could ever truly decode." That's when he fell asleep on the book and had the first dream. A dark-haired woman being dragged by an angry mob, her screams drowned out by the roar of flames. There are stories about a grimoire like this. The Sinclair grimoire. I thought it was just folklore. "The one who reads these words shall be my voice, my eyes, my hands." The records confirmed that she had indeed been accused of witchcraft and executed in 1597. Before her death, she had sworn vengeance on the judge who sentenced her and on his entire bloodline. When he turned on the light, he noticed red marks on his arms like fresh burns. "You mentioned being obsessed with an old book?" Shaken, Malcolm started seeing Dr. Sarah Bennett, a psychiatrist, a woman's voice murmuring in Old Gaelic. In the days that followed, Malcolm settled into a routine. By day, he catalogued the store's collection with Eyelid. By night, he studied the grimoire. "I found references to the grimoire in some other books here. Maybe we should take a closer look." Little by little, more of it became readable, revealing spells and references to a witch named Moira Sinclair. Strange things began happening in the shop. Books fell off shelves for no reason. Rooms turned freezing cold in seconds. But it had to be done at a place of power during the autumn equinox, just 3 days away. The grimoire isn't meant to free Moira, it's her prison. It was created by those who condemned her. "You look exhausted," Eyelid said after 2 weeks, finding him asleep over the grimoire again. "Maybe you should take a break. My family has guarded this secret for generations. The book wasn't created by her, it was made to contain her. And now, you're about to let her out." "It was built on top of an old pagan site," Malcolm reluctantly agreed. He decided to consult his old mentor, Professor William Blackwood, an expert in Scottish medieval manuscripts. "Where did you get this?" "It was among my uncle's things," Malcolm replied. noticing the professor's sudden change in demeanor. "You recognize it?" The old man adjusted his glasses, careful not to touch the book. "Moira Sinclair?" "Yes. A witch executed in 1597. Blackwood looked Malcolm dead in the eye. They also say her spirit is bound to the book, waiting for the right host." At the university library, Malcolm began researching Moira Sinclair. The name of the judge made Malcolm freeze. Lord William Blackwood. That night, the dreams intensified. He saw himself as Moira, feeling the flames licking her skin. He woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. "I'm having hallucinations," he explained. "Vivid dreams. And now physical marks. Stress and sleep deprivation can cause psychotic episodes," the doctor replied. Malcolm tried to follow her advice and locked the book away in a drawer. But the dreams didn't stop. And now he was hearing whispers, even when he was wide awake. Eylig noticed the change in his behavior. "You're different," she said. "More distant, and sometimes you talk to yourself." She hesitated before continuing. Malcolm agreed, and together they deciphered more pages, one of which described a ritual that could release the spirit trapped in the book. Rosslyn Chapel would be perfect, Eylig suggested. The night before the ritual, Malcolm was jolted awake by furious pounding on the shop's front door. It was Professor Blackwood, looking desperate. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said, barging in. "How do you know that?" Malcolm asked, suspicious. "Because I'm descended from the judge who sentenced her," Blackwood admitted. "I don't believe in spirits trapped in books," Malcolm replied, though doubt trembled in his voice. "No?" Blackwood pointed to the mirror on the wall. "And who is that behind you?" Malcolm spun around. For an instant, he didn't see his own reflection, but the face of a dark-haired woman with burning eyes. The same one from his dreams. "The ritual you and your assistant found. It's a trap," Blackwood warned. "It won't banish her. It'll finish her possession. She needs a linguist to fully translate the grimoire." "How do you know about Eylig?" Malcolm asked, more unnerved by the second. "She's not working for you, Malcolm. You're working for her." Blackwood collapsed forward, revealing Eylig standing behind him, holding a heavy medieval tome. "He wants the grimoire for himself to destroy it. We can't let that happen." "Because she came to me weeks ago, before you even inherited the shop," the professor said. Before Malcolm could process what he'd just heard, there was a loud crack. "He's lying," she said calmly, as the professor groaned on the floor. "What is this? Who are you really?" The site, famous for its ties to secret societies, was deserted due to the weather. Among the ancient carved columns, Malcolm and Eylig prepared the ritual. The grimoire was laid on a makeshift altar, surrounded by black candles. He looked at Eylig, who stared back with a furious expression that didn't seem to belong to her young face. With a swift motion, he grabbed the grimoire and pulled it away from the altar, breaking the ritual. Malcolm began reciting the words that now came naturally to him, in a language he had never formally studied. Malcolm uncovered the truth in pages of the grimoire that had suddenly become readable. He was a direct descendant of Moira through a child she had before her execution. The book hadn't chosen him by chance. Her blood ran through his veins. "And you, Malcolm, you're the key to finishing what she started." "I'm exactly who I said I was," she answered, her green eyes suddenly cold. The book trembled in his hands, and for a moment it looked like a shadow was trying to escape its pages, only to be yanked back in. Eylig lay unconscious on the ground, seemingly freed from the influence that had taken hold of her. Blackwood approached slowly, leaning on a pillar. The grimoire was locked away in a university vault. Eylig, with no memory of what had happened at the chapel, returned to her studies. Malcolm resumed work at the bookshop, trying to put it all behind him. That stormy night with the professor unconscious and locked in the shop's basement, Malcolm seemed to fall into a trance. The next day, under a relentless downpour, they drove to the ruins of Rosslyn Chapel. Suddenly, a burst of light flooded the chapel. Professor Blackwood, wounded but determined, had escaped and followed them. When he caught his reflection, he froze. His eyes, normally brown now, had a faint green glow that didn't belong to him. Like a part of his mind had been hollowed out, as if something was missing. He felt his consciousness being shoved into a dark corner of his mind, while another presence took over. "Stop now, Malcolm," he shouted, stumbling toward the altar. "There's still time." Malcolm hesitated, momentarily breaking free from the trance. There was a strange glimmer in his eyes that she'd never seen before. "It was every night you spent reading my words, every dream we shared, every page you translated." In that moment of clarity, Malcolm made his choice. Some promises made centuries ago still need to be fulfilled. Eyelid screamed in rage and lunged to retrieve it, but Blackwood held her back. "Destroy it, Malcolm." The professor yelled. "It's the only way." "I can't," Malcolm admitted, "but I can seal it again." Using his own blood, Malcolm traced symbols onto the pages of the grimoire, speaking containment words that flowed into his mind as if they had always been there. When it was over, Malcolm collapsed to his knees, drained. "You did it," the old man said, relieved. "You sealed her again." In the weeks that followed, life seemed to return to normal. But at night, alone in his apartment, something still gnawed at him. The dreams had stopped, but he felt incomplete. Then, one rainy afternoon, while organizing books in the store's basement, he stumbled upon an old mirror hidden behind a shelf. The real ritual was never at the chapel. His reflection whispered in a voice that wasn't his own. Malcolm tried to back away, but his body wouldn't move. "You didn't seal me that night," the voice continued now, coming from his own mouth as he watched in horror. "You completed my release." That's when he understood the awful truth. The ritual at the chapel, Blackwood's intervention, his apparent victory, it had all been part of the true spell. It wasn't the grimoire that held Moira's spirit. It was just the gateway to her real vessel, Malcolm. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. That night, Eyelid received a message from Malcolm, inviting her to the shop to discuss a new discovery. When she arrived, he seemed unusually calm. "I've found something fascinating about the grimoire," he said, leading her toward the basement. "I thought we agreed not to talk about that anymore," she replied, uneasy. "Some things are too important to forget," he said, smiling as he closed the basement door behind them. As the lock clicked into place, the last flicker of Malcolm's consciousness watched helplessly from his dark corner, understanding now that Eyelid was only the first of many to come. Moira's vow for vengeance, sworn in fire 400 years ago, had finally begun.